everyone! Now's the time to grab a nice cold drink and settle in because we are about to do the Daily 5. Since I started the YouTube channel, this is by far one of the most requested videos. Is what is the Daily 5? How do you do the Daily 5? What advice do you have for me to get started with Daily 5? And I'm going to try to stick to really broad terms because I do not want to infringe upon the copyrighted material of these books. This is the intellectual property of Gail Boucher and Joanne Mosser, who are the authors of the Daily 5 and the Cafe Menu. With that said though, I do know there's a lot of questions, and when I first started doing the Daily 5, I needed help. It was like, because at first, like most teachers, you don't have a lot of money, so you want to try to implement it without spending a lot of money. So you're trying to find all the free information that you can find on the internet or YouTube videos. What can you get your hands on without having to pay for it? But there's really not a lot of information that's for free. There really isn't. So one of the first things I'm going to tell you right now to get you started on your course for the Daily 5 is to purchase the books. The Daily 5 book, you want the second edition. Do not buy the first edition. The first edition has some gaps in it, and even some of the things that the authors have changed because they realized, this really wasn't the best practice. We're going to modify this and we'll include it in the second edition. So definitely purchase the second edition. This book is $21.60 on Amazon.com. And then the Cafe Menu is $21.56 on Amazon. So the two books together come to $43.16. And it even qualifies for free shipping and handling. I will link these books in the description box below, so this way just click on them and you're good to go. But there are not a lot of reading programs that you can literally get started in your room for under $45. Usually when you want to buy a reading program or start a new reading program in your classroom, you're investing hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. 45 bucks. Okay, so right off the bat, get the books. They are very quick reads. I was able to read both of these books in about 2 days. I admit I'm a fast reader, but even if it takes like 3 days to read the books, they're very quick and they're engaging books, so you're not sitting there reading like this really boring textbook. You want to know this information. So definitely purchase the books. Another thing you can do if you want more help than just the books is the sisters created a website called thedailycafe.com. And on thedailycafe.com there is a limited amount of free information that you can access. But there is a subscription service to that website. And I highly recommend subscribing. You can subscribe for 1 month, 3 months, or a year. I recommend the 3-month subscription. I really do. Because if you just subscribe for the 1 month now, you're going to do what I did. You're going to watch all the videos right now before school starts. And then by the time school starts, your 1 month subscription will expire. And then it's going to be late September, early October, and you're going to have questions. And you're going to wish you could go back and watch those videos again or look up specific videos that answer a specific question you may have. So honestly, this is what I did. I subscribed initially I did the 1 month, and exactly what I just said happened. School started and it was like, wow, I need more. I'm a visual learner. If you show me something one time, I'm usually good to go. So I really enjoyed having access to the video presentations by the sisters on their website. So I ended up subscribing again for a year. And truth be told, I really did not need the whole year subscription. I only used it for a couple of months and then I was done with it because by then I had watched the videos I wanted to see, and I did not get the full value from the year-long subscription. So if you're new to Daily 5 and you've already purchased and read the books, go to thedailycafe.com, do a 3-month subscription. This way you have time right now in August to watch some of the videos and to get all those ideas going in your head and start making plans. But then you'll still have access to them in September and October when you start to run into roadblocks and you have real honest-to-God questions. The last thing you can do, which is something I did last year, this coming school year will be my 4th year of doing the Daily 5 in my classroom. And just like any skill, the more you do it, the better you get. But last year, September, I took at Upper Iowa University the online class for the Daily 5. It's a 3-credit course that is completely done online for 8 weeks. And the cost this year is $485. That sounds like a lot of money, but I know if you're a young teacher, you have requirements mandated by the state that you have to have X number of professional development hours or so many college credits every few years to keep your certification renewed. So for under $500, you get a 3-credit class in the Daily 5, and the class is very comprehensive, yet not that hard. I'm a full-time mom, full-time teacher. I was a blogger at the time. I hadn't started YouTube yet, and I was taking the Daily 5 class. I had a very, very full plate, but I was able to get it all done because even though the class is a wonderful class, it's not exhausting. So if you're scared of taking a class online because you're thinking, oh my God, I really cannot fit one more thing into my day, the 8-week class, you can do it. It's not that hard at all, and you will walk away with just a wealth of information on the Daily 5. So those are some ways to get access to the content you are looking for. Now, I have a lot of people asking me the question, just in general, how do I start my classroom in September? What are my lesson plans for coming back to school? And I will say right now, this book is my lesson plan for September. In the back of the 2nd edition, the sisters basically created a 6-week lesson plan that I like to refer to as Daily 5 for Dummies. Seriously, they've broken it down into the steps you need to do, which focus lessons you're going to present first, how to do your eye charts, your anchor charts. It's all in here. So once you read the books, watch a couple of videos, and then you're ready to start writing your lesson plans. There's literally every day for 6 weeks lesson plans in here that are, I swear to God, foolproof. They really are foolproof because unlike a lot of reading programs, these aren't academics creating a reading program that then they send you off to go implement. These 2 ladies are teachers. They're in the trenches with us, and they created this program by actually doing the program. So when they came up to a roadblock, they figured it out. When they came to an obstacle, they made it over. So their 6-week lesson plans, these are literally the lesson plans that these 2 ladies are doing in their own classrooms. So it's so easy. And how many times will you say that when you're learning a brand new program? It's so easy. Usually you are just completely overwhelmed and inundated, and you don't know which way is up. But that is one of the things that I truly love about the Daily 5 is it's the least stressful reading program I have ever had to teach. And I've taught a lot of programs in the course of 2 decades, more than 2 decades actually. So yes, it's very simple and easy to get started. So yeah, my first 6 weeks lesson plans come right out of these books. Now, I will say the #1 thing to do with the Daily 5 is don't rush it. I made that mistake the first year I started because in their 6-week plan, they move very slow. Yes, they're teaching their focus lessons every day, but when it comes to read to self, a lot of times teachers, we feel under the gun to just jump in and get started. And so, whereas the sisters, when they start their reading program, Their goal for day 1 is to get the entire class to sit in a comfortable place, whether it's a desk, a chair, the floor, and read independently for 3 minutes without interruption. And I know when I first read that, I was like, 3 minutes? Oh, I'm going to try 5. I think I can do 5 on the first day. Don't do that. Seriously, if they tell you to go for 3 minutes, go for 3 minutes. When that 3 minutes is over, bring the class together, talk about what went right, talk about what went wrong, and talk about how did it feel. And then if you think you can do another 3 minutes right there on the spot, disperse the class again and do another 3 minutes. But seriously, don't rush the program, because the thing with Daily 5 is it's not you teaching the kids, you teaching the kids, you teaching the kids. Daily 5, you present a 10-minute lesson and then you back off, and the children are left with themselves. Children today don't know how to be left to their own devices. They really don't. We live in a world with constant entertainment, constant distraction, constant interaction with one of these things or a tablet or a computer. So you really cannot expect a child that's never had to be self-motivated to sit in one spot longer than 3 minutes and not talk to someone. So seriously, when they say build the stamina slowly, don't just jump in, they're right. They really are right. I've learned from trial and error to just follow their advice. Build your stamina slowly, and you actually teach the children how to just be. And that's it. Just them and a stack of books. Nothing else. And it will take several weeks to do that. The goal is to get them, if they're lower elementary, you're looking for a goal eventually of about 20 minutes of stamina. I'm teaching upper elementary. I do 4th grade. I was able to get my class to read to self for about 30 minutes by about week 5. So 5 weeks into the school year, my students were sitting down wherever they wanted to with a selection of books that was on their DRA 2 level. That's a big key. So if this child is reading at a DRA 34, that child has a bag of books with about 6 different books that are a level 34. And like I said, at 5 weeks, they would just sit there with their books and read for about 30 minutes without interruptions. And once the program is in place, it is actually amazing to see. I used to feel really proud when my principal would walk in, because he would walk in, and for a lot of people who don't know Daily 5, you walk into my classroom, I've got 10 kids sprawled out on the floor. I've got a couple of kids sitting back, literally under a table, reading to themselves. I have some kids in my desk. They're all in their cozy spot, but the room is pretty much silent except for me talking with whoever it is I'm whispering with at that moment. And my principal would walk in, and my kids, they don't look up. They don't jump up off the floor, run to hug them, or hey, how you doing? They just kept about their business. It was really great when that would happen. So that's the first key. Don't rush it. Another one that I will tell you with the Daily 5 is get over your own hang-ups. Because when you first read this, I did it too. You're reading this and yeah, right. Okay, you're describing some perfect class. I teach in the real world. There's no such thing as a perfect class. You know, I have, Jack, who's bouncing off the walls. I've got Aiden, who likes to move about the room. I have this kid who does this and this kid who does this, and you're telling me that I'm going to get these kids to sit still and read for half an hour. So I was skeptical. I really was skeptical. But there are strategies in here for working with those kids who are disruptors. There really are. So one of the things you're going to do is help that child find a specific spot. If Jack can't sit in one spot, you work with Jack. Jack, where in this room do you want to claim as being Jack's spot? And then you're literally going to get masking tape and you're going to mark that spot as Jack's reading spot. You really will. Another thing you're going to do is provide Jack with a bag of tools. So once Jack has read for about 5 minutes and he's starting to get that antsiness in him, he's literally going to take out his bag of tools. Maybe he's got a foam dice that he can squeeze while he's reading. Maybe he has a small Play-Doh that he can manipulate for a few moments. Maybe he has a little doodle pad that, again, for a few moments he does that. But you will be working with Jack to teach Jack, you're only going to do this for a couple of minutes. And then once you feel like you're okay again, you're back to your books. So there are different strategies provided by the sisters for how you deal with children who do have ADHD or who are, you know, the kids who are the interrupters in the room. Right? Lost my place here. Okay. Okay, also a big part for Daily 5 is during Daily 5, I am working with students. That is my one job, to work with students. I am not disciplining. I'm not yelling at this kid over there. I'm not yelling at this kid over here. And now you're thinking, how? How on earth are you doing that? Well, the trick to that is I don't make the kids come to me. I go to them. Gone is that back table where you'd bring 5 kids to and the rest of the class was left to their own devices. Now the kids stay put. So I have in my pensive, I have my tracking paper who tells me who I need to see, and I look for the kid, and if the kid's sitting on the floor, I pop a squat right next to the kid on the floor, and the child does their interaction with me, reads to me, and we go over whatever lesson I need to cover with that child. The child's at a desk, I go sit next to the kid in the desk. So I'm constantly moving around the room because your conferences with the children, your goal is to keep those conferences about 3 to 4 minutes, and then you move on. So this way, because I'm bobbing around the room, the kids are aware of the fact that they kind of have to stay focused because I might come sit right next to them in the next couple of minutes. So gone are the days where I'm planted at one spot in the classroom for 30 minutes and the class is on their own. Every 3 to 4 minutes, I'm moving to another child, I'm floating around the classroom, and just my presence kind of helps to keep them on task. All right? Another thing I would say with the Daily 5 program is don't add to the program. There are already 5 components to the program, and I've met several people who really want to take the component work on words and turn it into a centers-based classroom all over again. The whole point of Daily 5 is to get those centers out of the room. They're a distraction. They become a PlayStation in the room. And it's one more task that the teacher has to upkeep, monitor, make sure that all the pieces are put back in the same place. Don't do that to yourself. The Daily 5 allows you to remove centers. Rejoice in that fact. Don't find a way to sneak them back in. Seriously, don't. Another thing I've heard other teachers say is that, oh, the Daily 5, well, that's just silent reading, guided reading, and writer's workshop. I already do that. I must be doing the Daily 5. No, it's really not. Guided reading is gone with Daily 5. When you have a group of kids come to you to work during the Daily 5, you're really not doing a book walk with a little book and having the kids practice the vocabulary and read to you one at a time. No, when you pull a group for Daily 5, you're really doing a repeated focus lesson. So let's say you have 4 kids who are having problems with reversing their vowel sounds. As they're reading through it, they'll just read right over words that should have a long A or a long O, and they're putting short vowel sounds in it, and they're not even catching the fact that they're reading the words wrong. You've got 4 kids doing that. You're going to pull those 4 kids and have a group with you. The group will be about 10 minutes long, and now those 4 kids are not all reading at the same DRA 2 levels. One kid might be a DRA 20, one kid might be a DRA 32, One kid might be a DRA 16. I mean, you get the point. They're in all different levels. You're going to have one book that you're sharing with the kids, and you're going to model reading a sentence, and you're going to model doing it wrong. And you're going to go look at the kids and go, did that make sense? And then you talk about the focus lesson. So the groups really are homogenous, which is something that guided reading failed to do. Guided reading, let's be honest, those kids in the bottom groups, they tend to stay there all year long. They don't move up and down the way the program was initially designed for. With Daily 5, I'm pulling 4 kids from completely different reading levels that all need the same skill. And then I teach the skill, I have them model the skill back to me, and then I send them on their way to go back into the rotations. So it is not guided reading. Also, it is not silent reading. Silent reading, a lot of times teachers use that as a chance to catch up with the work they need to do on their desk while the kids are reading whatever book they're reading that they picked from the library without any real thought to reading levels, skill levels. Read to self really does mean that if the child is reading at a DRA 24, they only have access to a selection of books at level 24 that they got to choose themselves. So this way they're motivated to read the books because they picked them, and you know they're going to be successful with them. Now, on occasion, will I let a child pick a harder book because they really want to look at the pictures? Yes. They need my permission first to do that though, because I don't want that kid to spend the next 5 days looking at pictures of outer space that are beautiful, but they can't read any of the text below and around the pictures. That becomes a waste of time. So can they have that book one day and look at the pictures and be amazed and awed? Yes. A whole week? No. So it's not silent reading. This is very intended reading. This is purposeful reading. Also, when it comes to Writer's Workshop, work on writing and Writer's Workshop for me, they do kind of interlap with each other. There's a lot of similarities, but the big one is the focus lessons. You have to keep those focus lessons short because the main goal is student independent work, not teacher-driven work. So again, focus lessons, 10 minutes, and then get the kids into their rotations. The hardest thing for me with Daily 5 was getting to a 10-minute focus lesson. I can't lie. In the early stages of my doing Daily 5, my focus lessons were running 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and some days we would have to drop a rotation because I had spent way too long teaching and the kids were losing a rotation because of it. Teachers talk. I'm a talker by nature. It's what I do. And you really have to keep it brief. Bring them to their carpet area, and yes, in 4th grade, I do have a carpet area, and my kids sit on their bottoms, crisscross applesauce, hands in their baskets, because I don't think you're ever too old for that, and I sit in the floor too. They see me do it all the time, so they don't think anything of it. So I bring them to the carpet area. I will find, like in a trade book, maybe I'm just reading 3 pages from that book, not the entire book, and I will focus in on the skill I really want to hone in on, and we'll talk about that skill, develop the skill, and then I'll send them on their way to get into the rotations. Now, no one only wants to hear 3 pages of a book, so at the end of the day, I do have a story time where I will read the entire book to the class because they want to hear more than 3 pages out of a 36-page book. So story time is at the end of the day when I can share the entire book to them. Sometimes I might even share the book I'm going to teach to the class a week before the focus lessons are scheduled to be done. So let's say I want to read the book Coming to America, and there's several skills I want to focus on for comprehension. Well, Coming to America is a pretty long book, so I may read that book like Wednesday, Thursday of the week prior to. Then come Monday, when I'm ready to start teaching focus lessons right out of that book, the children already have familiar experience with the book, they know the story, and there's no pressure to read the whole book right then and there. They're perfectly fine when I focus in on 1 page or 2 pages of the book. So in my classroom, I have a chart, a pocket chart that looks like this, and unfortunately, I wish I had access to my classroom. I don't at this time of the summer, because in a perfect world, I would have all my materials with me, but suffice it to say, I have a pocket chart from reallygoodstuff.com, and it says Daily 5, read to self, work on words, read to someone, listen to reading, and work on writing. And in my classroom, round 1 of Daily 5 for the whole class is read to self. This is not something that the sisters insisted upon. This is a modification I've done for my own sanity, because I found it hard to have my conferences with students one-on-one when 10 kids were on a laptop, 6 kids were working with ABC, tiles, and doing work on words. I had children reading to a partner, so suddenly you had conversations going on. For my own sanity, the whole class for round 1 does read to self. And once our stamina is all built up, read to self goes on for about 30 minutes, and I get a ton of conferences done in that time period. Round 2 is the choice round, because Daily 5 is all about student choice. By giving the children choices, you empower them and you make them want to be in control and want to learn. So round 2 is the choice round, and I have 30 clothespins for 30 students, and the students are taught you have 1 second to make a choice. If I call your name and you're sitting there going, you lose your turn. I put your clothespin to the side and you choose last. And once that happens a couple of times, the kids get with it and that won't happen anymore. But so I try to put like 10 kids in a group during choice round. And the listen to reading on the laptops with Raz kids usually will fill up first. Once there's 10 kids in there, the remaining children have to pick from the other 2 choices. And then tomorrow, to make sure it's staying fair, the 10 clothespins on listen to reading with the laptops, those clothespins come off the pocket chart, get put to the side. And then the other 20 clothespins, those children get called first, so that this way different children get to use the laptops. And then once those 20 kids have made their choices, the 10 clothespins from yesterday's laptops, they then get called to put into other rotations. I find that this is the best way to keep it fair, to keep it honest, and to make sure that all 3 choices are getting an equal share of time with the children. And finally, our last rotation of the day is work on writing. And work on writing, again, there'll be a 10-minute focus lesson, and then about 25 to 30 minutes of self-sustained writing by the children. And sometimes the writing is writing of their own choice. A lot of times, though, by 4th grade, we've got curriculum to cover. So they will be given assignments. Maybe this week we're writing expository. Maybe next week is a persuasive essay, because we really do have to meet the standards from the Common Core. So I like to give them as much choice writing as I can, but there are times when the writing is dictated by the curriculum. So that is how I do my daily rotations. And the great thing about this system for me is, since everyone does the same thing rotation 1, everyone does the same rotation for rotation 3, the only time I have to go through every child's name for them to pick their choice is for the 2nd rotation. So 1 time a day, I have to spend about 2 minutes going through the whole class of kids, and they pick the choice they want, and then we move on. That works really well for me, because when I was first doing Daily 5, and we had to go have everyone pick their first choice. Okay, now on the carpet, everyone picked their 2nd choice. Now everyone picked their 3rd choice. I just thought that was too much valuable time being lost to choosing. 1 choice a day, move on. All right, and then one more thing I was going to say with this is focus lessons. The hardest part of Daily 5 for me really was getting to those 10-minute focus lessons. My phone has a timer built right into the phone. So when I'm starting focus lesson, I go to the timer and I hit start. When that 10-minute timer goes off, I'll give myself about an extra 30 seconds to wrap up whatever I was saying, but then we move on, we really do. And the hardest part of the focus lesson is to keep the children out of it. If they have a question about the lesson, yes, they can raise their hand and ask. But children love to tell their entire life story. And when you've got them all on the carpet and you're reading something from a book, every kid in there's like, oh, Miss Bietler, that reminds me of blah, 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 blah. And then the next hand goes up, the next hand goes up. And if you're not careful, your 10-minute focus lesson will jump to 30 minutes long because every kid in the room wants to tell their life stories. I nip that in the bud right away. If I'm teaching a focus lesson and a child raises their hand to tell me a story about their dog or their baby sister or something mom did last night, I'll say, you know, I would love to hear that. And today, at the end of the day, when we have class wrap up, if you want to share that with me, I'll be happy to listen to it then. But right now, I really have to do this. And then I go right back to teaching. And once you do that often enough, the class, they get the idea that you're really not going to stop and listen to whatever story they want to tell you right then and there. And eventually that will kind of stop itself from happening. And then one more thing, I want to wrap it up because I know this video is getting insanely long, like a lot of my teaching videos do, is my pensive. A pensive is something that is talked about in the cafe book. This is where you write it all down. You're having all these daily conferences. You have to keep notes. This is where you're putting your running record, your anecdotal records of, are the kids meeting their focus lessons? Are they hitting their targets? What DRA level are they currently on? So I will say the very first year I kept a pensive. But the first year and even the second year I did something wrong. And what I did wrong was, I'm sorry, I'm dropping stuff all over the place, was the keeping track form. I didn't think I needed to do this. So I just skipped this page. I was like, oh, I'll know who I'm supposed to see. Don't skip the keeping track form. This is the paper that all year long really will keep you honest. Now, when I walk in the morning, one of the first things I do is I go straight to my keeping track form. And I will look at the dates to see who have I not spoken with in the longest period of time. Those are the kids who are immediately bumped up to today's list of meetings I'm going to have with the children. Also in here, I have a calendar where I write down children's names, and these are literally their appointments. Children are kept, their names are in an appointment book. So not only do I use the keeping track form, but I keep a record of their appointments. Because let's say I meet with a child on Tuesday, and this child needs a lesson in story structure or elements or whatever it is they needed a lesson in. So we cover that target on Tuesday. I might put that child's name down in my calendar that on Friday of the same week, I want to have another conference with the child so that I can double check to make sure that they're applying the cafe menu strategy that is their focus lesson for that period of time. So if you're just meeting with the kids at random, some of the kids are going to slip through the cracks, and then suddenly you're going to look at their conference sheets and realize, I haven't met with this kid in 2 months. Oh my God, what am I doing? So definitely use the keep a track forms. And if you're wondering, when you purchase the cafe menu book, there is a CD-ROM in the book that has all of the forms and worksheets that the sisters created for Daily 5. And honestly, I love their forms. They're simple, basic, and exactly what you need. So yes, that's pretty much everything I want to talk about right now. I have notes all over the place trying to keep myself organized. It's such a big topic that I could go on and on and on. So I'm going to call this video, Daily 5 Part 1. And I'm not even going to record a Daily 5 Part 2 video until I see the questions that you guys post in the comment section below. And then once I get several comments in there, if I think I need to do a Part 2 video, I will do that. Or if it's just something I can answer in a sentence or two, I'll just reply to your comment down below. Because again, I don't really want to go into the whole program because this is the intellectual property of the authors who wrote these books. So it's not really my right to tell you all the nuts and bolts of this program. It's less than $45 to buy the 2 books, read them. It has everything you really need to know to get started, and if you want to ask me more questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you want to ask me questions on how I've modified it to fit my needs, or things that I've done to keep it simple for myself, I'm happy to answer those questions too. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this insanely long video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, because when you do that, YouTube will share the video with a wider audience, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who have questions about the Daily 5. And if you like this video and you like what you're seeing, please click the subscribe button and follow me so I can share more things with you in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.